Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Chronicles of Apple from the Apple of My Eye, and I am going to go over again brainstorming. And the reason I am promoting the brainstorming is that we have a lot of brainwashed people. Big example is the woke people, okay? And along with that is the left wing people. Now, I have no problem with people wanting to have social liberties and speaking their opinion, except that the people from the right doesn't always get to correct them, and they sort of throw temper tantrums, and they just wanted to have their point across and just them. So there's three sectors right now. We're just gonna kind of give a blanket statement of people that are heavily brainwashed. Okay, you have the brainwashed people from the Muslim world, which basically they are told how to think because they are given a lot of fear. And along with that fear, they are unable to reason because when you are in fear of your life, you don't want to question something. It's kind of like having a gun on your head. The other one is the typical people from around the world that are heavily engaged into entertainment, and they think that entertainment actually speaks the truth. So if they are hooked on secular songs, and they are hooked on secular uh, entertainment, okay, not having the faith, meaning they do not have any historical inclination. And if you notice how many children, if you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Here in the United States, they tend to tell you, I want to be a YouTuber, because they just care to get the money, but not having the truth. Or people are fantasizing over, it is way better to just get to be able to get the money, and they don't think it's important anymore to use your brain and become a physician or an engineer or a nurse. The whole point now is just driven by, this is what's going to give me money. Uh, there's no more need for a history. It's just kind of like history and technical things. It's all getting into what I call like hocus pocus. The Harry Potter generation in particular, the Europeans, the Americans, the first world nation, and even the second world nations, they are all hooked on these Harry Potter. And then there is the brainwashing from the woke agenda, or these kind of like, we tell you what to think, and they just fall right for it because it's an enticement. It's kind of like they're just under a spell. It's like if you look at the correlation between the Harry Potter um, generation, okay, and the gender confusion is going hand in hand. You have to have a level of witchcraft to engage people to want to mutilate their own private parts. Okay, we're in a generation where people are mutilating themselves. So their parents are mutilating them. The psychologists are in on it too, and those are all brainwashed people. So how are you going to end the brainwashing when all the world want to focus on is like this percentage of people that just cannot bear being a male or a female? That's really bad. But they work as a distraction over a myriad of other things. Like, it almost doesn't matter that there's wars happening. We have to somehow focus on these gender confused people. So we need to break that down, okay? And we also need to break down the. Okay, so the Muslims have got a gun on their head that tells them you must believe in Allah, and if you don't believe in Allah, you're gonna be shot dead. You're gonna be paying a lot. You know, And isn't it great to have a kind of culture and a religion where the parents get to kill their own children if they wanted to? So that is the problem, okay? One of the problem. And then you've got the Americans and the Australians and all these people like that, because we can have a television and we can listen to all these entertainment, watch them. The world is like falling for the Hollywood, okay? Which I think is sort of dipping down a little bit. This influence of Hollywood is starting to shake and crumble. That's because the truth is starting to rise, okay? So the um the other group of people that are so brainwashed are the people that hold on to what I consider kind of like a Hagar spirit. The Hagar spirit is kind of like, pity me, pity me. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. So everything is like focused on what they're lacking. They're just not able to. They don't have a vision. That's what it is. If you have so much self pity, that's because your vision is so limited. You need to have a vision in order not to have a self pity. For example, you could be the richest person, but you can't find, you don't feel like you fit in, and you don't feel like you fit in, and you have to somehow, or you didn't get attention. You may have money from your family, you were born rich, but you don't get attention, and so there is a need to be enslaved in. Um, Pleasing other people, okay? So one example would be like the people that um they had been told that they are oppressors, your ancestors are oppressors, and now they feel guilty, they're guilted into it, and so they're like, oh, let me show you that I am not a racist. And so how they do that is by chumming up with everybody. It don't matter. Oh, Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black Lives Matters. Okay, so they don't look into what is the truth behind the Black Lives Matter. But I want to be cool. I wanted to please people. I wanted people to think that, hey, I may be different, but you know what? Or you may assume that I am coming from the colonialist race, but I can assure you that I support Black people. So there is that need to kind of like inflate their love for humanity. So along with that is the group of Jewish people that, because they want to fit in, being a Jewish person with all of the history of persecution, they they kind of realize that if I break off from that identity, then I become a savior. Okay, I break off from that, and now I am a hero to the minority and anybody that are experiencing persecution, okay, or perceived persecution. So those people are brainwashed because they wanted to please everybody. And when people, there's a natural tendency of humans to try to please somebody. And they had found, there are studies that says that people that are abused as children, or maybe, yeah, so if they are abused, there is a tendency to serve, to try to please, right? So um, this, for example, a child has to walk on eggshells at home because the father was a drunk, okay? Because father was a drunk, every time she did the wrong thing, she got yelled at. And oh, they're gonna yell at me. And so, but when I'm doing something and serving, then I don't get that. So there is a need to, or if I'm sweet and cute, okay, so there's a need to be kind of like everybody's kind of like a Cinderella tendency. Like, so the person is having to serve and serve and serve because that's the only way that they feel accepted. So they will serve. And so for the Jewish people, there is a need to kind of appease and pacify everybody because they've been persecuted for so long. That identity of being proud of who you are cannot possibly be good for you, because then that puts you in that category for the persecution. So in order not to be persecuted is to put yourself at a level where you are detached from the rest of the crew. So how do we go about this kind of a brainwashing? um, what is the prayer strategy for it? What should we focus on? And that's why, I'm bringing up the topic of brainstorming. Okay, so with the letter A, you have the word ancestors. Okay, and I was doing some research on, and I'm gonna try to get to the C word, um, A, B, and C. So A is the ancestors, and the ancestors, think about Hebron. Okay, Hebron is where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives were buried. Okay, it is ironic to me. I could never get to Hebron because it is a Palestinian territory. Uh, and I was so disheartened because I never could go there. Everybody would say, "Oh, it's dangerous to go there." And whenever I went to Israel, I was kind of alone too. So there's no access to it while I was there. And so I probably have to do some research where I'm connected with people that's going to take me to the Hebron. Okay, so Hebron is, it's interesting. Why did the Jewish people give control, or like a level of why did they give that to Palestinian authority? I don't understand it, because it's your ancestors. It's not their ancestors. Maybe Abraham, but Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Leah, Raquel. I mean, that is maybe is Raquel there? Anyhow, let me look at that. If I had to do my life all over again, I would have been into history more. Um, study the history, especially of Israel. Oh, where did I go? Okay. So let's take a look at this Hebron place. Hebron, the West Bank, looks like a woman with a goatee. I don't know what she has on her chin, but it looks like a little pin on the chin, like this. Okay, so on her thing here, there is something, right? And this is the neck, and Jerusalem is around the neck area. And then the chest area on the left side, about here, of the location of Hebron. Okay, it's within the Palestine, it says. Okay, and Hebron is a city, and ironically, the word is in Hebrew. Hever, haber, means a friend. So how the heck did Hebron ended up with the Palestinians? It's not even Arabic. Okay, um the ancestors there are all Jewish, yet, okay, what is it doing with the Palestinians? I don't get it. Okay, it's talking about Rebecca, Leah. um Hebron is also recognized in the Bible as the place where David was anointed king of Israel. So isn't that a disservice to David, who was the king of Israel? That is where he was anointed. Yet we're gonna give it to the Palestinians. Okay, so just think about this. Okay, Hebron is in the Palestinian um, border, or the Palestinian territory. Okay, and I find it baffling because I looked into, you know the word Canaan. Okay, Canaan has been won, by the Jewish people. In particular, I think it's Joshua. Okay, the land of Canaan. They had to fight off giants. Okay, yet where did it go? Why is it the Palestinian? Why is the West Bank with the Palestinian? It doesn't make any sense to me. And now they're having to go over there. And then Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. Okay, I was looking at, okay, all the different dynasties that had taken it over before the, okay, there was the British Mandate, before that the Ottoman, before that, I don't know what is it, the Hasmonean or whatever it is, Hellenistic and all that stuff, up, up, up. And I'm like, over and over, okay, the Temple Mount, the Zion, that is Zion, okay, Zion, okay. How did you give that to the Palestinians? It is baffling. And like I said, the more we ask the question, why did they give this to the Palestinians? It's going to break down the brainwashing. And what I realize, especially with the left wing Jews, like I said, the left wing Jews is because they are not acknowledging God. That's the only reason why you'd be a left wing Jew. The only way you can be against your own culture, knowing that you have such a rich culture, is because you don't want to please God. Okay, so we have a lot of people in Israel and all over the world, Jewish people, they don't care to please God. They are happy with the comfort they have in their lives. And it's so laughable that the people in the United States and Australia and all those Jewish people, that they don't suffer living in Israel, yet they have the audacity to be on the side of the Palestinians. And they wanted to, and in essence, they are promoting Hamas because that is the real issue here. You know, Hamas being one of the terrorists, okay, and it's the government. Okay, they're the only terroristic government in Israel. Their affiliation. I keep getting distracted here. Okay, so I'm sorry. It's like to be a left wing Jew. The reason for that is a lack of, I don't know if it's a lack of identity, but I think it's a lack of connection with God. There is no interest in pleasing God. Perhaps because this kind of like, oh, you are not going to be liked because you are a Jew, and the Jews have suffered through many things. They are not looking at the victory, and they don't want to affiliate themselves with their people because they're trying to please everyone else. Okay, I I just want people. It's kind of like you have this victim mentality, like, oh, in order not to be a victim is to be on the side of other people that are perceived to be victimized, right? Okay, so, oh, um, and it's a fear of man and a need to please men. It doesn't please God. There is no vision. If you don't want to please God, you're not going to have a vision, okay? Your goal is to basically pacify all the people that might think negatively of you. So they are busy trying to please their friends and their family and their neighbors. And then the way they feel special is is the fact that they are the hero for that group, right? Okay, the minority. Okay. Let me praise Black Lives Matter. That way I would not be challenged for being a Jewish person in the apartheid because I don't want to look like a racist or something like that. So I am a hero, and there is a need to be a hero or to take on the underdog, a perceived underdog. And so how do you break this is through the knowledge of B, which is the Bible. Okay, for me to become a Christian, and you know, and by the way, there's something really interesting with my last name, which I was just starting to look more into lately. I There was a time somebody told me, where are you from and what's your last name? Okay, and this person is alluding, he was a rabbi pastor, and I'm wondering, and I was asking for peace. I said, I want peace and I need a sense of direction. And he asked me where I'm from, what's my last name. So I told him, and he immediately told me, be wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. Okay. And I'm like, it had nothing to do with getting a sense of direction and having peace. So I was walking home and I was thinking to myself, how pitiful that this guy must have assumed that, I might be Jewish. And I'm kind of like, that's funny because I know my heritage. Like my family have a genealogy, okay? And I, being one of the youngest person in the family, I was, the history of the family is something that I would sit in someone's lap, or I would hang out with the older people and I would ask them questions. So I know my history, and it has nothing to do with Judaism of any sort. All I know is that my grandmother was a prayerful person, but she was Catholic. She always wore a veil, and she valued candelabra. Something's important with this candlelight, okay? And the grapes are important. When she had her wedding picture, she had grapes, and I don't know if it meant like a lucky thing or whatever. So with and then but the last name is Iliera. It starts with a Y. It's originally a Y, Llera. So Y in Spanish is like E. Okay, so it's pronounced as an E. The Y is an E, E, or E. Okay, so the LL becomes a Y, Elie. So the word caballero, you don't say caballero if it's caballero, Elie. Okay, it's like the llama, you know. It's not a la llama, it's llama. So yera, okay. Interestingly, yira in Hebrew means fear and awe. Okay, and il is indicative of God, and even if you were to put it as a Y, so the letter Y was turned into an I in order for Americans to be able to read my grandfather's last name, which is Iliera. Iliera. Now, a girl's name could be Yara in Hebrew, and it kind of sounds like my name, Iliera. Okay, because in Hebrew you kind of have to just guess the vowels. Their A can be an O, their V can be an U, or a vu, U. They put little dagesh, which look like little fishes underneath the letters, and that is now an E or long E or whatever, or an A. It's unbelievable, the Hebrew lettering. And Yara, it means honey. Okay, so in my last name, it can either sound like the fear and awe of God, or Ilyera, El, okay, which is the name of God is El, Ye, Ra. Or if you say Ilyera, okay, then it's either fear and awe of God, or it actually can mean the honeycomb of God. Okay, so this, I don't know if that's what this guy was thinking about when I told him my last name, that it probably to him had a meaning in Hebrew, because I obviously does not look Hebrew. I don't look Jewish. So even before this guy, what is interesting with me is that I was always fascinated with about the life of the Jewish people and how the diaspora took place. And that is because I lost my dad at 19, and the Lord put in my heart, I took your dad because I saw you running after him. Now I want you to run after me. So in this Advent, and I don't want to just talk about myself, but I feel like I need to disclose something, because there is a gift that the Lord gave me. I can't exactly say what it is, other than I have this gift of asking a lot of questions. When my dad died, I remember this Indian guy had an intuition, and he was asking me, "You seem to be so strong, and I don't understand that. Are you okay? Because you just lost your dad." And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he says, and he gave me a book, and it's a book about questions. And interestingly, and I'm like, why did he give me this? Okay, but I ask a lot of questions, which is the reason why God, my dad had to put me in the private school, because he could not keep up with all the questions I have. I gotta know this. Why is it raining? Why is it that? Why is he called this? Why is it? I was always asking why. Now, interestingly, my last name, it did begin in Y until it was changed into an I. So Y and I and J in Hebrew is a yod, which is basically just quotation mark, like an apostrophe. It's like a hanging. Okay, I'm surprised that the name of God begins with a hanging letter. It's kind of like just a tuk, So anyway, um, I talk about the death of my dad because there's a lot of people in Israel. They lost their loved ones and they don't know why. Okay, what's the why when you lose somebody? Okay, and it may be because God, just like my dad was taken by the Lord, is because he wants you to run after him. If you look at the Jewish people as a whole, there is so much brainwashing that has happened, even among Christians. I'm not just singling out the Muslims, okay? Christians are hooked on Harry Potter. So many of the churches were used for the Harry Potter scene, and I'm so disgusted by this. Christ Church in Dublin, Christ Church in Oxford. In Dublin, they also use St. Patrick's. They use the connecting bridge, okay? And it is ironic to me that these places of worship for Christians were used for witchcraft and witchcraft movies. And that is just a devastating thing. Now I'm looking at Israel, and I mean, and all those 4 times I went to Israel, I could never make it to Hebron, because it is unsafe. And then I just found out today it actually is connected to the agreeableness, like a friendship, okay, which is haber, okay, and what is haber? Haber also means girlfriend, boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's Hebron. Okay, that's where your ancestors come from. Yeah, let's just give them to the Palestinians. And I'm kind of like, why? Okay, so the more we ask why, and the more we ask people why. So why do you believe that you should be, as a Jewish person, okay, because I'm looking at all these Jewish people that are like, oh, front and center, we do not approve of what they're doing to the people in Gaza. Well, you didn't go to Israel. You don't know firsthand what the heck is really going on. You are listening to the wrong news, because you are not understanding that the Gaza Strip is being used for not only tunnels. I knew that because I went to Israel. Okay, I knew that. Okay, the issue with the Gaza. The The fact that the Jewish people gave that land, okay, Gaza is the exact place that Samson pulled the pillars, okay. He was even, I think, married there, okay. It says married there, buried there. Let's ask that question. Where is Samson buried? Oh, he's also in the field of Machpelah. Manoah. Where is Manoah? I'm gonna end that up. Put Honolulu. Okay, so he was buried in Hebron. Okay, so meaning of Manoah. He is the father of the judge Samson. According to the Bible, Manoah was the tribe of Dan, lived in the city of Zorah. He married a woman who was barren. Her name is not mentioned in the Bible, but according to tradition, she was called Haselelponi or Selelponit. She was a daughter of Etam and sister of Ishma. Manoah and his wife were the parents of the famous judge Samson. You know, it's interesting. Samson was a judge and he went to the house of a prostitute. Then he falls in love with Delilah. And the child was dedicated from the womb as a Nazarite, which entailed restrictions on his diet the angel spelled out in detail. The woman is not mentioned in the Bible. Told her husband, a man of God came to me. Manoah prayed, and the angel returned to instruct both of them. After the angel left, Manoah tells his wife, "We shall surely die because we have seen God." Together with his wife, Manoah subsequently tried to dissuade Samson from marrying a Philistine woman, but he traveled to Timnah for the wedding ceremony. When they were unable to do so, Samson's birth has special importance for some Christian Annunciation. Okay. After Samson's death, the family recovers his body. Tomb of Manoah. Let's put, where is the tomb of Manoah? It means rest. Come on, just give me where it is. Where is the tomb of Manoah today? Judean foothills, the Shephelah. Tel Sora. I want. It's in Judea. Okay, so let's see. I guess it's Hebron. Well, Hebron is Jacob, Leah, Rebecca, Isaac, Abner. So where? Let's put map. I want to see it on the map. Oh, it's so tiny. I want to see where it is. They just won't give it exactly as it is. I want to know where it is. Where Samson met Delilah. It's a Philistine. Okay, so the one thing that I think is really critical is for people, for people that are Jewish people, when they have this issue of brainwashing, is to connect them. You need to kind of have a connection with the Lord. The importance of the identity, for example, is critical, and giving them a timeline. Okay, so you know, it's so disheartening for me that the people that had, I feel like they're just under a spell. They came from the Holocaust and they're saying, oh, yeah, this is genocide. The Jews are performing genocide. Yeah, but they didn't give this old woman a real context to what is going on. The Jewish people have no choice. When you have people massacred that much in your family, it's normal to be so paranoid. It's gonna cause a hysteria. It's like, so I'm gonna walk, or I'm at home and I can be abducted, I could get raped, my child could get raped. It doesn't matter that you have your bomb shelters, that serves you no purpose. You can still get shot. I mean, they'll comb the community just to get to you, and it's not just about missiles overhead hitting your home. It is basically them going after you right in your home and into your bomb shelters. Okay, so you don't you run out of things to do. Okay, so when they gave the land to pacify, when Israel won, okay, the 6 day 1967 6 day war, they used the place as a basic, okay, they used the map that they won, they use all the places that they won as a bartering chip. And that's unbelievable. Why use it as a bartering chip other than they were so pressured? They were so pressurized by the United Nations. And who the heck really built the United Nations? I am just confused with this. Who built the United Nations? Who started the United Nations? 4 months after the San Francisco conference ended. Oh, I don't need to. Declaration of St. James Palace. In 1941, London was the home of 9 exiled government. The British capital had survived 22 months of war, and in the bomb-marked city, air raid sirens wailed frequently. Practically all the Europe had fallen to the Axis power, Germany, Italy, and Japan. And ships on the Atlantic carrying vital supplies sank in regularity. Representatives of Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, as well as representatives of the exiled governments in Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Greece, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Yugoslavia, and the Free French, met in London to sign the Declaration of St. James Palace. The purpose of this meeting was to pledge their solidarity in fighting aggression until victory against the Axis powers was won. Declaration proclaimed that the only true basis of enduring peace is the willing cooperation of free people in the world in which relevance and the menace of aggression and all enjoy economic and social security. Atlantic Charter, August 1941. Axis powers seemed to have the upper hand. Germany had commenced an attack of USSR and carefully stage managed meetings between Hitler and Mussolini, which ended in the perfect accord, sounded grimly foreboding. Although the United States was giving moral and material support to the Allies, it had not yet entered the war. One afternoon, 2 months of the declaration of St. James Palace, the news came that President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Churchill were in conference somewhere at sea, the same seas on which the desperate Battle of Atlantic was being fought. And on August 14, the two leaders issued a joint declaration destined to be known in history as the Atlantic Charter. This document was not a treaty between two powers, nor was it the final and formal expression of the peace aims. It was only an affirmation document declared of certain common principles and national policy of these respective countries on which they based their hopes for a better future for the world. Sixth clause of the Atlantic Charter declared that after the final destruction of the Nazi tyranny, they hope to see established a peace which will afford to all nations the means of dwelling in safety within their own boundaries, which will afford assurance that all men in all the lands may live out their lives in freedom from fear and want. The seventh clause stated that such a peace should enable all men to traverse the high seas without hindrance. The eighth clause concluded that emphasizing the need for nations to abandon the use of force. They believe that all the nations of the world, for realistic as well as spiritual reasons, must come to the abandonment of the use of force, since no future peace can be maintained in land, sea, and air. Armaments continued and employed by nations in which threatened or may threaten or aggression outside of their frontiers. They believe, pending the establishment of the wider permanent system of general security, that the disarmament of such nations is essential. They will likewise aid and encourage all other practicable measures which will lighten for peace-loving people the crushing burden of armaments. January 1942, Washington, D.C. President Roosevelt, Prime Minister Churchill, Maxim Litvinov of USSR, and TV Song of China signed a short document which later came to be known as the United Nations Declaration. So it was called the Atlantic Charter, and then it became Declaration January 1st of 1942. Germany and Japan. So it involves US, UK, USSR, China, Belgium, Haiti, Poland, Czechoslovakia, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Canada, Honduras, United States of South Africa, Dominican, New Zealand, India. All these countries are Europe, US, and South America, and some islands. How and then later Mexico, Philippines, Ethiopia. Okay, here we go. The beginning part of the United Nations that was signed October 1943. 1942 countries are all South America, America, and some islands, okay? The later one, Mexico, Philippines, Ethiopia, Iraq, Ecuador, Uruguay, France, Liberia, Colombia, Iran, Peru, Chile, Paraguay, Venezuela, Turkey. Okay, here we go. The moment you put Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, what this tells me is that it was bought out. Between Saudi and probably Turkey, somebody is buying, right? So who would it be? That's where the problem is, okay? Once you factored in Saudi Arabia, you factor in Iraq, you factor in Egypt and Turkey, you have now a problem with the United Nations, okay? Because they are bound to pay off whoever is in position, and they will blackmail them. Okay, at the very least, they will be blackmailed. So this is the reason why nobody says anything, and the pressure on Israel is just tremendous. Okay, because they have the Antichrist spirit that those three particular countries, four, okay, Iraq, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, they already have the Antichrist spirit. Okay, so even though, um, so apparently with the First World War, it was Hitler, uh, it's Germany, Italy, and Japan. Japan was the Asian conquest, and the European conquest, Germany, and the rest. And then the Italians, so are hooked on it. And so here we are, we have Israel, and the reason why the United Nations is basically bought out is because the second group of people, Allah is the greatest deceiver, right? That is their God. The moment they got in, they don't really care about that. It's more for personal gain. But Israel is going to be the kid that doesn't fit in. And it's like I can just sense that there is the people behind this United Nations is most likely, well, it is highly Masonic, but it's definitely like a shadow government, my impression. But of course, I'm not going to dive into that. I just know that somebody is paying the United Nations, okay? And who could they be? If the pressure, all those countries that are Christians are not going to be against Israel. And if you're talking about diplomats that are educated, especially coming from the Christian nations, they should not be oblivious with the truth of the Bible. But the United Nations, factoring in Arabic nations, would mean that their goal is always to dominate. So they will try to dominate the United Nations, and pay off people as much as they can to silence them in their voting rights and everything. So this is why it's important to ask the question why. Okay, so when people are brainwashed within the Jewish sector, okay, it is a lack of information, and the need to please the world, but not to please God, not to know the truth, and they don't want to rock the boat. And it's also kind of like saying, "Oh, we're different from them." Okay, we are not performing this heinous thing for the war because we just want peace. Now, how the heck Israel did everything? Okay, they've done everything. They've given up price lands, their territories, even after winning it times two. And in modern times, okay, I'm not even talking about the number of times Israel has been conquered and taken over by Jewish people, putting their landmark in there, having their tombs. It's not enough that it has Jewish names like Hebron and Haver and the Zion mountain. Oh, give that one too. Okay, they did already. Okay, but you cannot put the Jews anywhere else. It's there's 6 million of them. There's 6 million of them. But how many allies do they have? That's the other question, right? So if what they're trying to do is to say we are gonna my family come from the Holocaust, and I am going to tell you that, or I am coming from the Holocaust, you should not be performing genocide and all this stuff. Well, the Jews are not performing the genocide. They've been victims of genocide, and this will be the next genocide of the Jews if they do nothing. So they've already done the giving up of price lands. That didn't work because they thought they could live with them, but then they just used all the money to have bullets, to give to their neighbors, which is Israel. They just created bullets out of the money that they were given in from Gaza and the West Bank and all that, Palestinian territories. And then when that didn't work, they figured, okay, we are getting bombarded with suicide bombers. Let's give them a wall. So they did put the wall. Oh, and of course, that's, now pity me, pity me. Why did you put a wall? Now we can't do this. And we're not, even Bethlehem is also given to the Palestinian. Nazareth, oh, give that also to the Palestinians. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And so they did that. Okay, they used to employ them, and of course, when you keep getting bombed by the people you're trying to that have, okay, if the people you've hired has sentiments towards Palestinian causes, then of course they're kind of like, no, they're gonna hurt us, and so we're not gonna hire them anymore. Okay, so that's what happened there. But and they're out of when you're cornered, there is no other way but to fight. You have to fight and take them out, because even with the walls, even with the security, top military security, and turning all your kids into military people, even that is not enough. Okay, that is not enough, because you can do all the security you want and go high tech on it, but if the heart of those people is destined to annihilate the Jewish people, that is their goal, then once you put the security and that doesn't work, once you put the walls, once you turn all your kids into a military and that's still not working, okay, to create any level of peace with your Palestinian counterpart, then eventually you have no choice but to fight. And you have to get rid of those commanders, and you have to move the people in order to dismantle all the routes, all of these tunnels in the Gaza. And I'm sure they have tunnels too at the West Bank. And, you know, I don't know what kind of centers that the Muslim people have. I mean, the Islamists have within the West Bank. So anyway, I hope this helps with the brainstorming. So we need to get people back into the timeline, looking at the names, the meaning, looking at, the ancestors, what David has done, what Joshua has done, what Jesus Christ has done. Okay. So you look at all of that, you line them up, okay, and you ask this person this, and you give them the data why things has happened. You need to go back to, okay, what have the Jewish people tried to do with the Muslim nations. Okay, once you reiterate that, it is no surprise to me while they have to eventually fight, okay, and take down Hamas, fight the terrorism. And this is better for the world to see that the Jews are standing up for themselves and not accepting the acts of terrorism. Anyway, I'm going to end right here. Thank you and God bless.